The fall of the Tunguska meteorite is one of the most mysterious and debated events of the 20th century, which gave rise to many conspiracy theories. Some claim that an unidentified flying object exploded over Siberia in 1908, while others speak of an antimatter explosion, a microscopic black hole, or even ball lightning. Some link the incident to the experiments of Nikola Tesla, who allegedly tried to transmit a charge of energy to Alaska. Reality only throws up new reasons for the most incredible hypotheses. But what really happened in Siberia in the early XX century? June 30, 1908, Yenisei Province, Podkamennaya Tunguska River Basin. The time is 7:14 in the morning. The weather is clear, sunny day. Suddenly in the sky above Eastern Siberia appears a glowing object flying from southeast to northwest. A moment later it explodes with a deafening sound like an artillery shot or a roll of thunder. The flash is so powerful that the sky lights up as if a second sun has appeared in it, and it becomes painful for people to look up. Even at a distance of 200 kilometers from the epicenter of the explosion, windows are blown out and buildings are damaged. In the same radius, mass deaths of pets, birds, and fish are recorded. The shockwave was so strong that its echoes spread for thousands of kilometers. It was heard even for 1,000 kilometers from the place of catastrophe. The driver of the Trans-Siberian Express, which was 700 kilometers from the epicenter, was forced to stop the train. The explosion caused seismic vibrations, which were recorded in different parts of the world, from Germany and Great Britain to Indonesia and the USA. Their strength was comparable to a magnitude 5 earthquake. For several hours after the explosion over Siberia in the sky remained gray dust trails, marking the path of the mysterious object. Then silver clouds appeared, and the nights became unusually bright. And this phenomenon was observed not only in Siberia. Residents of Berlin, London, Vienna, and Copenhagen noted that they could safely read newspapers and even take pictures without flash at midnight. In the daytime, people noticed a rare optical phenomenon, solar halo. This phenomenon was recorded in 155 locations around the world. For several weeks after the incident, it was difficult for astronomers to observe the starry sky, as the atmosphere remained saturated with dust particles. Even the famous Mount Wilson Observatory in Los Angeles noted the deterioration in visibility. However, it is surprising that the press did not pay much attention to this event. Probably the reason for such indifference was the fact that similar phenomena have already occurred before. For example, in 1883, when the eruption of the volcano Krakatoa caused global cataclysms. The earthquake that accompanied this eruption was 10,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Then the tremors were felt all over the planet. Against the background of this catastrophe, the Tunguska incident did not seem so significant, and even in the Russian Empire only a few small publications mentioned it. The newspaper Siberia of July 2, 1908, wrote about the testimonies of peasants who saw in the sky an unusual object that resembled a tube or cylinder of blue-white color. According to them, it moved downward for 10 minutes and then disappeared behind the forest. Shortly thereafter, a gigantic black column of smoke rose above the taiga, followed by a loud but not deafening sound, more like a bang than a powerful explosion. The ground trembled, an indefinable fiery glow erupted over the forest, and panic broke out in the villages. Frightened peasants ran out into the streets, and women wailed in tears that the end of the world had come. The story could have ended there, but years later it was remembered again, already under the Soviet regime. By the 1920s, the world had almost forgotten about the mysterious explosion, but local residents, particularly Evenki hunters, retained vivid memories of those events. It was their stories that later became valuable evidence for researchers. In addition to the mass death of animals and fish, other oddities were discovered. Whirlpools appeared in the reservoirs, water in some places began to suddenly fountain, and in other places new springs broke through. Some parts of the forest became dead zones. The shamans explained it simply. The goddess of thunder was angry and decided to punish the earth. The first scientist seriously interested in the Tunguska phenomenon was Leonid Kulik. In Soviet times, he was engaged in mineralogy, mineral exploration, and later became one of the founders of meteorite astronomy in the USSR. In 1921, Kulik, together with his university friend Peter Dravert, went on the first expedition to study meteorites that had fallen in Siberia. However, he was most interested in the mysterious case of 1908. In total, Kulik organized 4 expeditions and devoted 12 years to studying the Tunguska phenomenon. The most surprising discovery was the study of the so-called dead forest, an area where, logically, there should have been a crater from the meteorite fall. However, neither the crater nor traces of meteorite debris scientists have not found. Instead, they saw a striking landscape: trees, completely devoid of branches, with burned trunks, but still standing upright. The scale of this strange anomaly was impressive, 8 kilometers across. What is even more surprising, further from the epicenter of the explosion found burnt trees, fallen radially away from the center of the disaster. The entire affected area, called the Dead Forest, covered 2,150 kilometers square. Most of it was destroyed not only by the powerful impact, but also by the subsequent fire that engulfed the taiga. Scientists documented the anomaly, conducted an aerial survey of the area, and interviewed local residents. Among them were Evenki brothers, whose camp was dangerously close to the explosion site. They said that they woke up to a strange whistling sound, then felt a strong gust of wind and tremors, the last of which was so powerful that it toppled their tent. When they got outside, the forest was already engulfed in flames. Interestingly, according to them, first there was a fire, and only then there was a bright light, as dazzling as the sun, and a deafening explosion in the center. Despite the scale of destruction, nature has amazingly restored itself. In 5 to 7 years, new trees began to grow on the site of the catastrophe, and their recovery was 10 times faster than usual. The burnt forest turned into ash and humus, which served as a powerful fertilizer for young vegetation. Thanks to the efforts of Leonid Kulik, the event, which occurred in the summer of 1908 in Siberia, attracted the attention of the scientific community. However, the lack of clear evidence of the meteorite fall gave rise to many alternative hypotheses, sometimes quite unusual. Let's consider the most curious of them. One of the most popular theories suggests that over Siberia crashed alien spaceship. This hypothesis was first put forward by Soviet science fiction writer Alexander Kazantsev in his works Blazing Island and Blast. He argued that the nature of the destruction caused by the Tunguska explosion resembled the aftermath of a nuclear strike like the one that later occurred in Hiroshima. The idea so fascinated even the eminent designer Sergei Korolev that he sent a group of researchers with a helicopter into the taiga in the hope of finding evidence. However, the expedition found nothing convincing. Korolev later regretfully admitted, "It's still a pity you found nothing." Although scientists have long ago rejected this hypothesis, it continues to excite ufologists. By the way, it was Kazantsev who first coined the term aliens. The second popular version claims that in the Siberian taiga were testing some top-secret weapons. By the way, Kazantsev himself suggested that the explosion could have been the result of nuclear tests, perhaps even of alien origin. However, the level of radiation at the site of the disaster did not exceed the norm, which gave rise to even more extravagant hypotheses. One of the most curious theories connects the Tunguska phenomenon with the experiments of Nikola Tesla. According to this version, that day the great inventor allegedly tried to transmit a powerful energy charge to Alaska. However, something went wrong, and the devastating blow came to the territory of Siberia. The lack of documentary evidence is explained simply. Tesla, realizing the potential danger of his discovery, destroyed all records, deciding that mankind is not yet ready for such a powerful technology. The list of hypotheses does not end there. There are many more theories, each of which is intriguing in its own way and makes you think about the mysteries of the Tunguska phenomenon. Among the many hypotheses about the causes of the Tunguska phenomenon, the version that a microscopic black hole could pass through the Earth in the early XX century has been repeatedly expressed. How exactly it could happen from the point of view of physics, no one can explain yet. However, given that black holes themselves remain one of the most mysterious and little-studied cosmic anomalies, it is impossible to completely rule out this possibility. Another fantastic hypothesis suggests that the explosion was caused by the collision of the Earth with an object consisting of antimatter. At the moment of contact with ordinary matter, there was annihilation, accompanied by a powerful release of pure energy, which explains the lack of traces of space matter or metal fragments at the site of the catastrophe. There is also a theory that the cause of the explosion was a giant ball lightning, but it does not explain all the accompanying phenomena. There is also a more prosaic version, the release of natural gas, such as methane, which seeped through the Earth's crust and ignited as a result of an unknown process. However, this option does not answer the question of the appearance of luminous clouds and abnormal brightness of the nights observed by eyewitnesses far beyond the epicenter of the explosion. But, perhaps, the most eccentric version belongs to a geologist, who during an expedition to the taiga was subjected to a mass attack of bites. According to his hypothesis, the cause of the catastrophe could be a huge cloud of mosquitoes with a volume of about 5 cubic kilometers, which, being set on fire, allegedly caused such a powerful explosion. This theory, of course, is more like an anecdote, but in the list of unusual explanations it takes a special place. Despite the many theories, the exact answer to the question of what happened in the basin of the Podkamennaya Tunguska River, there is still no answer. However, scientists have managed to establish that the phenomenon was definitely of cosmic origin. This is indicated by high concentrations of rare earth elements in the soil. In addition, numerous eyewitness testimonies and a detailed study of the area confirm that in 1908 over Siberia really happened something really unusual. The question of what actually fell in Siberia in 1908 is still a subject of lively debate. Supporters of the meteorite version believe that it was a cosmic body made of rock or metal, and the alleged crater called Lake Checo. In favor of this hypothesis says its funnel-shaped shape, as well as traces of rare elements such as germanium, iridium, and molybdenum found in the muddy sediments. However, the main evidence, fragments of the meteorite itself, was not found there. In addition, the researchers found that the neighboring Lake Zapovedno has a similar shape and similar composition of bottom sediments. In addition, radiocarbon analysis data show that both lakes were formed long before 1908. Despite years of searching, scientists who regularly visit the site of the catastrophe have not been able to find the remains of the meteorite neither in the reservoirs nor in the surrounding taiga. Another popular theory says that the cause of the explosion was a comet. However, this option is also questionable, since the icy body, consisting mainly of dust and frozen gases, is unlikely to be able to penetrate so deep into the atmosphere and explode with such power. However, the researchers paid attention to the annual Beta Taurids meteor shower, which falls just at the end of June. This gave rise to a new hypothesis. Perhaps the Tunguska object was indeed a comet, but with a rocky core inside. In this case, its dense core could have overcome the upper atmosphere and detonated at a low altitude, releasing an enormous amount of energy. And since the structure of the core was probably loose, it could have collapsed completely in the explosion, disintegrating into microscopic particles that could not be detected in the area of the fall. Particles of the mysterious object that caused the 1908 catastrophe probably dissolved into the soil and water bodies of the region, becoming an indistinguishable part of the local ecosystem. At the moment, the hypothesis of a cometary origin of the Tunguska phenomenon with a rocky nucleus remains the most argued, but the scientific search continues. New expeditions can bring unexpected discoveries, because this topic still attracts the attention of both the scientific world and fans of conspiracy theories. However, the most amazing aspect of this whole story is the incredible luck of mankind. Given the scale of destruction, no one died, and even panic among local residents was not recorded. A similar case occurred in 1930 in the jungles of Brazil, but there the object was much smaller, and the force of the explosion was much lower. Despite this, local tribes perceived what happened as a harbinger of the end of the world, and missionaries had to literally dissuade people from committing suicide. If the mysterious explosion had occurred not in the Siberian wilderness, but over a densely populated city, the consequences could have been catastrophic. And if such an event had happened during the Cold War, it is hard to imagine how the nuclear-armed world powers would have reacted. It is unlikely that anyone would have looked into the causes of the explosion. The risk of global conflict would have been too high. The main lesson to be learned from this story is that humanity has been remarkably lucky. One day we will surely solve the mystery of the Tunguska meteorite. With such luck, it is only a matter of time and technological progress. I want to apologize in advance for any errors in the text or voiceover. I am still learning, and the channel language is not my native language. The voiceovers are done by artificial intelligence, so if you notice any inaccuracies, please let me know so I can fix them and improve the quality of the content. I'd also welcome your feedback and thoughts on the topic. Your support in the comments motivates me to keep finding new and exciting stories. Thank you for your understanding and participation. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you don't miss new stories.